A win in Joe Sacco's debut as head coach and a step in the right direction.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Friday, November 22nd, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free and available in your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. The Bruins 1-0 victors over Utah last night in Joe Sacco's debut as head coach. We are going to break down the storylines, stats, and signals to take away from that one, as well as preview tomorrow's crucial game against the Detroit Red Wings. There's no nights off at this point for the Bruins after getting off to this slow start, culminating in the firing of Jim Montgomery. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes, at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Bruins fan. I've been covering this team for various outlets for almost exactly 20 years. It all started with the Joe Thornton trade. Worked for 5 years as a full-time news editor for The Score. Have been hosting this podcast since 2019. Joe Sacco getting the W, getting the game puck from Captain Brad Marchand last night, despite Joonas Korpisalo posting his second shutout of the season. Perhaps he's a guy to stick with for the foreseeable future. We'll talk about that a bit later on in the signals part of the breakdown, but the big story last night, of course, was Boston taking a step in the right direction. It wasn't necessarily, one small step for the Bruins, one giant leap for hockey. More like a baby step in a Bill Murray, what about Bob kind of way. And the key in this one was the energy that the Bruins showed early on. Kind of that new coach bump. Everybody sensing the urgency after Jim Montgomery was effectively scapegoated or sacrificed to help show these guys that this organization is serious about winning and changes will be made if things do not turn around. It wasn't perhaps as emphatic a victory as we would have liked to have seen. The Bruins did get goalied a little bit, especially early on. They outshot Utah 15-5 in the first period. But Karel Vejmelka coming up huge for the Utah Hockey Club before the Bruins were able to finally break through. Elias Lindholm scoring on the power play for the Bruins, his third goal of the season, and he's a guy that really needed that boost of confidence in order to get going. And that's kind of the thing that stood out to me last night for the Bruins. They came out energized. I would say Lindholm played one of his better games as a member of the Bruins, as did Nikita Zadorov, both of whom are kind of under the microscope as the marquee free agent signings by management who have not really panned out. You've had some ups and downs with those guys so far, more downs than ups. But to get that power play goal, the power play has been struggling mightily. To get that from Lindholm was huge for the Boston Bruins. And there was a significant change on the power play that really paid off. Not only was Georgi Merkulov on the top unit, which I thought was pretty cool, but Brad Marchand was playing a net front presence in the second period. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he is shifty, quick on the goal line, able to strike right away to the net. And it paid off with that goal from Lindholm. Montgomery was kind of reluctant to do a lot to shake things up, but that small shift, putting Marchand at the front of the net, resulted in the rebound coming out to Lindholm, and he pocketed it for the 1-0 lead that the Bruins would not relinquish, despite some tense moments later in the game where it looked like they had iced it with their second power play goal of the game, scored by David Pastrnak. Initially, there was no goalie in net, should be noted, but it was ruled that he knocked the puck down with a high stick, annulling that goal. So beat Utah only 1-0, and to go only 1 for 7 on the power play. Not incredibly encouraging on the surface. You would have liked them to have scored a couple of those power play goals and iced it earlier than they were able to. But right now, it's all about building confidence for this team. And to be able to come out, score a goal on the power play from Lindholm, a guy who really needs to get going. He looked like a top center in this game. You saw Zadorov making some good defensive plays, staying out of the box, which is key. I noticed Mason Lohrei looking quite rejuvenated there, or perhaps unleashed. You had Mark Kastelic fighting twice against Robert Bortuzzo, which energized the team. And all of it put together amounted to a big 2 points for the Boston Bruins. And that is what matters most. Lindholm, after the game, said he's been hard on himself. He's probably harder on himself than anybody. He's played bad. Too many bad games for him this year. And it's time for a reset. And he's hoping he can build some confidence and help the team more. Again, the Bruins were not perfect. 1 for 7. Were not able to get the better of Vejmelka too many times, but Korpisalo came up big with some saves of his own, 21 for his second shutout of the year. They outshot Utah 31-21. They were more physical. They were more crisp on their passes. I love to see early on in the game, David Pastrnak came in on an odd man rush, and instead of trying to make something happen, he just fired it, which we want to see. A more of a north-south game. It's going to be a bit of a restart, a refresh for the Bruins. But after the game, Joe Sacco said there was good vibes in the locker room. It felt alive more than it had this season. The energy is back. And again, it's one win against, not the strongest of competition, but it was a win indeed. And the Bruins now have to build on that to really make it count. We've seen some wins so far this season that were perceived as potentially pivotal or helping them turn a corner. Remember those two back-to-back shutouts against Philly and Seattle earlier in the season, that comeback against St. Louis. But this is a bit different with Joe Sacco driving the ship now, with Jim Montgomery out. This has to be a bit of a building block and a turning point for the Bruins, a bit of a baby step as they find their legs and hopefully turn from an infant to Forrest Gump, just out there running and getting back on track. We'll take a look at some more stats and signals to take away from this game, as well as preview tomorrow's game in Detroit here as the podcast continues. After the Bruins win last night, I was looking for tickets in nearby Detroit or Buffalo later this season. And of course, I was looking at Game Time, the best place for tickets for your favorite teams or bands or comedians. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorites play even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time has an amazing seat view feature where you can get a view from your seat so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the venue. And by toggling on their all-in pricing, you know exactly what to expect at checkout as well. No surprise fees. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to Bruins games or to see your favorite band. I'm going to see the Arkells next weekend. Cannot wait. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? It is game time. All right, let's take a look at some key stats and signals to take away from last night's game against the Utah Hockey Club. Like I said, the Bruins outshot Utah 31-21. That was a big area that I was looking for improvement in, as under Jim Montgomery, the focus was more on puck possession and quality shots on goal compared to volume. And the Bruins came out shooting last night, 15 in the first period. They kind of slowed down a bit, going down to 11 in the second and 5 in the third, as Utah mounted big kind of resistance late in the game in order to try to come back. But the Bruins, thankfully, were able to hold on thanks to Eunice Korpisalo and company. The Bruins did score on the power play. However, they only went 1 for 7, 14.3 success rate. Actually improved their overall numbers, which heading into last night were dead last in the NHL. I'm sure they still remain there, but just to be able to break through, and with Lindholm, that's a big confidence booster. And indeed, they are at 11.9% now, just back of the Islanders, who are at 12.1%. The Bruins did kill 4 penalties last night successfully, which is a big improvement. They're now 22nd in that respect in the NHL. So improvements in both areas, which is great to see. The Bruins, of course, got the goal from Lindholm, his 3rd of the season. Hopefully this is a confidence boost for him, and he can get going a bit here offensively. They were led in shots by Pavel Zacha, who had a team high, for forwards, 20 minutes and 20 seconds of ice time, 5 shots for him, a block and a hit. David Pastrnak also with 5 shots. Brad Marchand close by with 4 of his own. Everybody on the back end getting in on the shot action as well. Andrew Peeke, Charlie McAvoy, 2 apiece. The other 4 with 1. Eunice Korpisalo, 21 saves on 21 shots to get his 2nd shutout of the season. He now has a save percentage of .911, which is very, very good, especially in today's NHL, where the average is below 900 right now. He's 7 starts, 4-2-1 for the Bruins, 2.38 goals against average, .911 save percentage. And if we're looking at some signals to take away, perhaps they go back to him tomorrow night against Detroit in order to keep the vibes going. It's important for them to build on that win to get another 2 points from the Red Wings, who, as we'll see in a second, are very close to the Bruins in the standings. Korpisalo's clearly been your better goalie so far this season. Yes, they need to get Swayman going. They need to get him in net to build his game, build his confidence as well. But right now, you have to go with the better goalie, and it's Korpisalo at the moment. There's no question about it. In terms of the underlying numbers in this one, at 5-on-5, Utah kind of played better, or had more possession at least. 54.7% of the shot attempts, 54% of the shots, but the Bruins had more scoring chances, 18-5 advantage there. 6 high danger chances compared to only 2 for the Utah Hockey Club. Expected goals at 5-on-5 were fairly even, 1.08 for the Bruins compared to 1.06, but the Bruins had all those power play opportunities and overall had 3.79 expected goals compared to 1.71 for the for Utah. So both goalies played extremely well in this one. The difference was that one power play goal scored by Lindholm, and Vejmelka came up huge for Utah. Bruins had 13 high danger chances compared to only 4 for Utah last night. So you see the big difference there. And Vejmelka certainly was a difference maker for this team. So what signals can we take away from this one? Well, the Bruins, of course, baby steps. They're still right in the thick of a playoff dogfight, really. If we look at the Eastern Conference, you have 7 pretty good teams that are, you could argue, locked into playoff spots. We'll see if the Washington Capitals suffer from missing Alex Ovechkin for 4 to 6 weeks, but you have Carolina, New Jersey, Washington, Toronto, the Rangers, the Panthers, and Lightning, who are all pretty good teams, all above 600 right now in terms of point percentage. Then you have the Bruins tied with the Sabres at 500. The Sabres winning last night, as did the Bruins, with Detroit kind of lurking close by in the Atlantic. They're at 475, or 474, I should say. So tomorrow night's game is pivotal. The Bruins could, if they get 2 points, they could move to 5 points above Detroit with 2 more games played, of course. 2 more games played than the Sabres. They need to create some distance here between Buffalo, Detroit, and assert themselves as, again, a top 4 team in the Atlantic, maintaining what has been the top 4 for some time here. But Buffalo, Detroit, even Ottawa making a push, although they've lost 3 in a row now. So the signals to take away: improvement on the power play, and we'll see here if Marchand continues that net front presence, and if Lindholm can get going a little bit. Zadorov staying out of the box. I mean, come on. Let's the bar is kind of low right now, but that is a win for sure. I would like to see Korpisalo starting again against Detroit. Keep him going. They do have back-to-back coming up next week, so perhaps they go Korpisalo against Detroit on Saturday, and then come back with Swayman or Korpisalo against Vancouver on Tuesday, but they'll have to split those 2 starts with a visit to Long Island on Wednesday, that back-to-back situation before a Black Friday game against the Penguins at TD Garden. Let's preview that Detroit game more closely here as the podcast continues. Big weekend of football action coming up, and you can get ready to tackle the NFL with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today, and again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Bruins, Red Wings tomorrow night at Little Caesars Arena. The Red Wings are coming off a comeback victory over the New York Islanders last night. Of course, the Bruins with that tight win over Utah. Both teams desperate for points, and you've even heard rumblings of maybe Jim Montgomery replacing Derek Lalonde in Detroit if things don't turn around for them sometime soon. It's the first of 3 meetings between these 2 teams. They'll play again on December 3rd and then on March 29th. And Detroit, if you're looking at them to score, you're going to want to stay out of the box because they have a 5th-ranked power play at the moment, succeeding on 30.2% of their power play opportunities so far this season. They do have a lot of talent up front and on the back end with Mo Seider, Simon Edmondson, even Eric Gustafsson, who was brought in to help spur on the power play. This is a team you want to stay out of the box against for sure, especially on the road. Boston's power play, again, still ranked 32nd in the NHL. The penalty kill for Detroit, though, is 32nd ranked as well. So you look at Boston's power play, Detroit's penalty kill, both ranked dead last in the NHL. Something's got to give there if indeed there are some penalties taken in this one. So it could be a prime opportunity for Boston to build on the momentum gained by scoring that one goal, albeit on 7 opportunities last night against the Utah. I just give them a team name already. It's ridiculous. Boston's penalty kill up to 22nd, 76.8% success rate. Both these teams, despite Detroit's top 5 spot on the power play, they're struggling to score overall. They rank only 26th in the NHL in goals per game, 2.53. The Bruins 31st at 2.33. And again, Boston, even despite the win last night, the numbers aren't very friendly overall. They still have the second worst goal differential in the East, minus 20 compared to minus 26 for the Penguins, and the Red Wings are up at minus 13. If you look at the top teams in the Atlantic, or sorry, in the East right now, the Bruins technically back in a playoff spot after last night's win in the second wildcard spot, but they're the only team in a playoff spot in the East with a negative goal differential. And you look at the Sabres, who are at +1. They could be a real team to look out for here down the stretch. Team defense, the Red Wings are allowing 3.21 goals per game, which is ranked 19th. The Bruins 3.29, which is 24th. The Red Wings had lost 3 in a row heading into last night's game, all in California against the Ducks, Kings, and Sharks. So this is a team that can be beaten even on home ice. They're led in scoring by Lucas Raymond, who's got 3 goals, 15 assists for 18 points. Dylan Larkin leading the way with 11 goals. They have a 2-headed goalie tandem that's actually been pretty good so far this season. Cam Talbot, 5-3-2 with a .920 save percentage. And Alex Lyon with the 3-4-0 record, but a .908 save percentage. Again, Korpisalo, I say ride the hot hand. He's got a .911 save percentage, 2 shutouts, 4-2-1 record, whereas Swayman's at 5-7-2, 3.47 goals per game allowed, and an .884 save percentage. This is a pretty big matchup tomorrow night for the Bruins because they cannot afford to drop points against teams who they're competing against in the standings, and especially teams that are below them in the standings. You're already seeing some, just looking at Bleacher Report this morning, way too early trade destinations for Patrick Kane. The vibes are off when it comes to the Red Wings, 4-5-1 in their last 10. And they are in the wild card race, but unless they make a coaching change as well, they could sink quicker than they're able to get back to swimming. And Patrick Kane could be a pretty hot candidate on the market. Joe Yerdon of Bleacher Report listing the Bruins as the #1 potential destination. He's got 10 points, Kane does. It would be the 3rd most on the Bruins this season. How desperate is Don Sweeney this year to make the playoffs? Do they try to make a big swing? You probably don't want to trade your first-round pick if you're a middling team, or especially in the lottery for a rental player. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm not a huge Patrick Kane fan myself, but just all that to say, the Red Wings could be in sell mode as well. If the Bruins are looking to add a winger, I am still on the Jesse Puljujarvi bandwagon. He's putting together a nice little season in Pittsburgh, much cheaper. and the Penguins are already in sell mode after having traded Lars Eller. All right, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. A nice little baby step forward last night. They got to take a bigger step tomorrow and really start to build and string some wings together. Excuse the pun there. Some wins together against the Wings would be a great starting point. Please do check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey next if you need some tips on how to win your league, win your week even. It's available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again here on Monday on Locked On Boston Bruins. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for some bonus shorts content, especially if there's any breaking news with respect to our Boston Bruins. Have a great weekend, friends. Talk to you again on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.